High Priest Teho stood before the gleaming human embassy on Mentari Prime, his silver robes catching the light of the twin suns. The building's architecture blended Earth styles with Mentari curves, a physical symbol of the hoped-for diplomatic success. Teho adjusted his ceremonial headpiece, feeling its weight, both physical and symbolic, as he prepared to meet the first human delegation to ever visit their world. The Mentari had long been known throughout explored space for their telepathic abilities. Most species regarded these abilities with a mixture of fear and respect, but the Mentari themselves saw their gifts as sacred connections to their ancestors and the universe itself. For 10,000 years, they had used these abilities to forge peaceful relations with other sentient beings. "Are you ready, High Priest?" asked Doa, his assistant and student. The younger priest's skin shimmered with anticipation, the pale blue patterns across his temples glowing faintly, a sign of excitement among their kind. "I have connected with hundreds of species, young one," Teho replied, his voice calm despite the importance of the day. "Humans are said to be unusual, but all minds follow certain patterns." Inside, however, Teho felt a small flutter of uncertainty. The reports from other telepathic species about humans were inconsistent. Some claimed humans were impossible to read, others that they were too chaotic to understand. He had dismissed these accounts as exaggerations from less skilled practitioners. The embassy doors slid open, revealing a group of 5 humans, led by a woman with short dark hair and alert eyes. Ambassador Jiu walked with confidence, her diplomatic uniform adorned with symbols of Earth governance. Behind her came her team: 2 security officers, a cultural specialist, and a xenobiologist. "High Priest Teho," she said, bowing in the Mentari fashion, head tilted slightly to expose the right temple, a gesture of trust among telepaths. "Earth extends its hand in friendship to Mentari Prime." Teho was impressed by her knowledge of their customs. "The Mentari welcome Earth's representatives with open minds and hearts," he replied, performing the human handshake he had studied. The initial pleasantries took place in the embassy's grand hall, a room specifically designed with calming colors and acoustics to put visitors at ease. As they shared ceremonial tea, Teho explained the importance of the telepathic bond in Mentari diplomacy. "To truly understand each other's needs and intentions, we believe minds must touch," he said. "It is painless and brief, I assure you." The human security officers exchanged glances. The taller one spoke up. "Ambassador, the briefing was clear about avoiding telepathic contact. We can't recommend this." Jiu considered this for a moment before responding. "I understand your concerns, but refusing would be seen as deeply disrespectful. If hundreds of species have undergone this ritual safely, I see no reason humans should be different." Teho noticed the tension among the humans, but maintained his serene expression. Such concerns were common among species new to telepathic contact. "Perhaps," he suggested, "only the ambassador need participate. A single connection is often sufficient to establish understanding between peoples." After further discussion, Jiu agreed. They moved to a smaller chamber, the room of meeting minds, where soft lights pulsed in rhythm with the breathing exercises Teho guided her through. The room contained only 2 comfortable chairs facing each other and a small monitoring station where Doha would observe. "I will touch your temples," Teho explained, "and form a light connection. You may feel a strange sensation, like remembering a dream. Simply relax and allow the connection to form naturally." Jiu nodded, closing her eyes. "I'm ready." Teho placed his long fingers gently against her temples. He had performed this ritual countless times, and his confidence was absolute. He closed his eyes and began the mental preparation, his consciousness extending outward like delicate tendrils searching for the familiar patterns of thought all sentient beings shared. He found Jiu's mind easily enough, bright and alert. But when he attempted to form the initial connection, something unexpected happened. Instead of the gentle melding he was accustomed to, he felt as if he had stepped from a quiet room into a crowded marketplace during a festival. Thousands of thoughts, memories, emotions, and sensations bombarded him simultaneously. There was no order, no pattern, no single stream of consciousness he could follow. Where other species' minds were like orderly libraries, hers was like an endless ocean in the middle of a storm. He tried to withdraw, to reset the connection, but found himself pulled deeper. Images flashed by: a child falling from a tree, the taste of something called chocolate, the pain of losing a parent, the thrill of graduating university, fear of the unknown, curiosity about his own species, and dozens of other fragments, all happening at once. Unusual readings. High Priest, Doa said from the monitoring station, his voice sounding distant. Your neural patterns are spiking. Should I terminate the connection? Tahoe wanted to respond, but he couldn't find his voice. He was lost in the chaotic currents of Jiu's mind. He tried to focus on a single thought, a single memory, but new ones kept appearing, branching off in unexpected directions. Most disturbing of all, Jiu appeared to be completely unaware of the chaos in her own consciousness. To her, this was normal. How could any being function with such internal discord? In his centuries of making telepathic connections, Tahoe had never encountered anything like this. It defied everything he understood about consciousness and thought. The human mind wasn't just different. It was fundamentally alien in its structure and function. As Tahoe struggled to maintain his sense of self amid the whirlwind of human consciousness, he realized with growing alarm that he couldn't find his way back out. The controlled pathway he had created was gone, dissolved in the unpredictable currents of Jiu's thoughts. For the first time in his long life, High Priest Tahoe felt something he had never experienced during a telepathic connection. Fear. Tahoe had connected with many alien minds before: the logical patterns of the Krell, the emotional waves of the Voshan hive, the dreamlike consciousness of the gas-dwelling Nugala. All followed understandable structures. But the human mind was chaos incarnate. In Jiu's consciousness, a childhood memory of skinned knees from falling off a bicycle melted seamlessly into anxiety about tomorrow's diplomatic meeting, which twisted into lyrics of a song she had heard 30 years ago, then jumped to scientific calculations for her university thesis. There was no pause, no separation. Everything happened at once. Your vitals are showing distress. High Priest, came Doa's voice, distant and echoing as if through water. Should I break the connection? Tahoe tried to respond, but his physical form felt remote and unreachable. He pushed toward what should have been the exit pathway of their telepathic link, but found only more swirling thoughts. The careful mental doorway he had crafted had vanished. Meanwhile, Jiu sat calmly, her breathing steady. Her mind continued its normal processes, unaware of the priest trapped in its currents. A fleeting thought about the strange tingling in her temples was immediately washed away by memories of her grandmother's cooking. Then planning for next week's Earthside visit, Tahoe felt himself being pulled deeper. He tried to anchor himself to something stable, but nothing in the human mind stayed fixed long enough. Even their core memories shifted and changed with each recall. No two remembrances exactly alike. He's not responding, Doa said to someone else in the room. His mind wave patterns are becoming erratic. Can we sever the connection? Asked another voice, Elder Summon, who must have been called in due to the emergency. Not without causing damage to both of them, Doa replied. His consciousness is too deeply entangled with hers. Inside Jiu's mind, Tahoe witnessed a memory of her first day at the Diplomatic Academy. The nervousness, the pride, the weight of responsibility. All these emotions existed simultaneously, contradicting yet complementing each other. How did humans function like this? The Mentari experienced emotions as distinct, separate states. The idea of feeling fear and courage together was like trying to be both hot and cold at once. Suddenly, Tahoe was caught in a particularly strong current. Jiu's dreams, not sleeping dreams, but aspirations. He saw her imagining successful peace treaties, exploring alien worlds, having a family someday, writing a book of her experiences, retiring to a small house by the sea. But these weren't sequential plans. They all existed together, overlapping, changing, some growing stronger while others faded, then resurging later. His vital signs are declining. Elder Soman's voice echoed. We need to try something else. Tahoe felt a new presence, another mentory mind reaching toward him. Elder Soman was attempting to establish a secondary connection to pull them out. But the Elder's mental tendrils could not penetrate the swirling chaos of Jiu's consciousness to reach him. Meanwhile, Jiu began to notice something strange. Random thoughts that weren't hers flickered through her awareness. Concepts of ancestral worship that felt alien, memories of a childhood spent in meditation chambers, the sensation of having more sensitive temples than the rest of one's skin. Her brow furrowed slightly. Is everything all right, Ambassador? Asked her security officer, noticing her expression. Yes, just strange thoughts, she replied, her voice dreamy. I keep thinking about growing up in a crystal temple, but that can't be right. Tahoe realized with alarm that their minds were beginning to leak into each other. Given enough time, they might blend completely, destroying both their identities in the process. He had to find a way out. He forced himself to stop fighting the chaotic flow of Jiu's thoughts. Instead, he began to observe the patterns within the chaos. There were currents, emotional states that pulled thoughts in certain directions. When Jiu felt curious, her thoughts moved like a spiral. When anxious, they jumped rapidly between scenarios. Tahoe focused on the emotion of calmness, trying to amplify it within her mind. Gradually, those currents became stronger. Jiu's breathing slowed, and her thoughts began to settle around peaceful memories. Watching stars from a mountain top, floating in warm ocean water, the comfort of a hot drink on a cold day. Her brain waves are becoming more regular, Doha reported, and the High Priest's vital signs are stabilizing. In this relative calm, Tahoe could now see the structure beneath the chaos. Human minds weren't truly random. They were incredibly complex systems with countless interconnections. Where mentary thoughts flowed like carefully directed canals, human thoughts were like a vast river delta, branching and rejoining endlessly. With this understanding, Tahoe finally located the remnants of his entry point. He carefully began reconstructing the pathway out, using Jiu's calmer state to build a bridge back to his own consciousness. I'm detecting organized patterns in his mind waves, Doha said excitedly. I think he's finding his way back. As Tahoe worked to extract himself, he encountered something unexpected: resistance. Part of Jiu's subconscious had become interested in his presence, curious about the alien mind. Tendrils of her thoughts wrapped around his, not maliciously, but with the natural human instinct to explore the unknown. The ambassador's vital signs are elevating, reported one of the human medics who had been called into the room. Heart rate and brain activity increasing. Jiu's eyes fluttered open, though the connection remained. I can see stars I've never visited, she whispered. Rituals around crystal formations. 3 moons rising over a silver sea. The security team moved forward in alarm, but the mentory priests gestured for them to stay back. Breaking physical contact now could harm them both, Elder Soman explained. The High Priest is working to disentangle their minds. Inside the mental landscape, Tahoe gently unwound Jiu's curious thoughts from his own. With care and patience, he rebuilt the boundary between their minds, gradually separating his consciousness from hers. After what seemed like hours but was only minutes in the physical world, Tahoe finally found his way back. With a gasp, he removed his hands from Jiu's temples and slumped back in his chair, physically exhausted. Jiu blinked rapidly, her eyes refocusing on the room around her. What happened? A deeper connection than anticipated, Elder Soman said diplomatically, helping Tahoe sit upright. How do you feel, Ambassador? Strange, she replied, touching her forehead. Like I'd lived another life for a moment. I saw things, your world through different eyes. Tahoe looked at her with new understanding and profound respect. You were not meant to experience that. Human minds are not like ours. Is that bad? Jiu asked. Not bad, Tahoe replied, his voice weak but certain. Just different. Gloriously, terrifyingly different. The first contact between their species had not gone as planned, but as Tahoe caught his breath, he knew it had revealed something more important than any diplomatic exchange could have. Humans weren't just another species. They were living proof that consciousness could exist in forms the Mentari had never imagined possible. Despite their best efforts, the connection between Tahoe and Jiu remained intact. What had begun as a simple diplomatic ritual had become a dangerous entanglement of minds. The medical teams of both species worked frantically in the small room, monitoring vital signs that grew more concerning by the minute. Inside Jiu's mind, Tahoe no longer had any control. The brief moment of calm he had found shattered as her consciousness shifted into deeper states. He was pulled down into layers of thought that few humans ever consciously accessed, let alone shared with others. Here, abstract concepts took physical form. Tahoe found himself in a landscape where justice was a towering scale made of light, while freedom appeared as endless doorways opening in all directions. These weren't just symbols. To the human mind, they were real experiences, felt as deeply as hunger or pain. His brain patterns are becoming erratic, Doha reported, adjusting the monitoring equipment. It's as if parts of his consciousness are fragmenting. Elder Soman placed her hands on Tahoe's shoulders, attempting to stabilize him physically while the medical team attached sensors to his temples. What about the human? Soman asked. One of the Earth doctors checked Jiu's readings. Elevated neural activity, especially in regions associated with memory and creativity. She's experiencing something unusual, but doesn't appear to be in distress. Inside Jiu's subconscious, Tahoe encountered something that terrified him. Her fears. Unlike Mentari, who experienced fear as a clear warning about specific dangers, human fears were complex webs of rational concerns mixed with completely irrational terrors. Jiu feared failing her mission, but this connected to childhood memories of disappointing her parents, which linked to existential dread about wasting her life, which somehow connected to an inexplicable fear of deep water and what might lurk beneath. All these fears existed simultaneously, creating a swirling darkness that Tahoe could not navigate. Yet alongside these fears existed hope, bright, persistent, and equally irrational. Despite knowing the statistical unlikelihood of certain outcomes, Jiu maintained belief in them. Her hope wasn't based on facts or reason. It existed because she needed it to exist. How can you function like this? Tahoe's thoughts echoed into the void of her mind. How do you live with such contradiction? To his surprise, something answered. Not Jiu's conscious mind, but something deeper, more primitive. Balance came the concept response, not in words but in understanding. Without darkness, how would we recognize light? In the physical world, Jiu suddenly spoke, though her eyes remained closed. The crystal temples, 4 seasons of study, ancestral mind-linking ceremonies. She was describing Mentari cultural practices she could not possibly know. She's accessing his memories, Elder Soman realized with alarm. The connection is becoming bidirectional. Doha checked Tahoe's readings again. His vital signs are destabilizing further. Heart rate erratic, neural patterns showing signs of cognitive dissolution. Deep in the human subconscious, Tahoe experienced something uniquely human. Dreams. Not the organized memory processing of Mentari sleep states, but wild, impossible creations. He witnessed Jiu flying through space without protection, breathing water, speaking to her deceased grandparents, transforming into different creatures. Most disturbing was how her mind accepted these impossibilities without question. In one dream space, Jiu stood before a door that opened onto an ocean of stars. Sometimes, her dream self said, seemingly aware of Tahoe's presence, "We need to believe 6 impossible things before breakfast." This defies logic. Tahoe's consciousness replied. Of course it does. Dream Jiu smiled. That's what imagination is for. The concept of imagination, of creating what did not and could not exist, was foreign to the mentary. Their minds were structured around reality, not the fabrication of unreality. This boundless human creativity both fascinated and terrified Tayo. Without the anchor of consistent logic, he felt his own structured consciousness beginning to come apart. In the medical room, the situation grew dire. Tayo's body began to shake, and alarms sounded from the monitoring equipment. "We need to sever the connection now," the mentary medical chief said, "even if it causes damage." "Wait," Elder Soman countered. "Look at the patterns." She pointed to where the wavelengths of both minds were displayed. "They're beginning to synchronize. Forcing them apart now might destroy them both." Meanwhile, Jiu's security team grew increasingly concerned. Their ambassador lay still, occasionally muttering phrases in what sounded like the mentary language, her eyes moving rapidly beneath closed lids. "What's happening to her?" demanded the lead security officer. "She's experiencing his memories," explained the xenobiologist. "Their minds are exchanging information at an unprecedented rate." Within Jiu's consciousness, Taho encountered perhaps the most confounding aspect of human thought, their ability to hold contradictory beliefs simultaneously. Jiu believed in scientific facts about the universe's random formation, while also maintaining spiritual beliefs about purpose and meaning. She valued logic and reason while making important decisions based on instinct and emotion. She understood her own mortality while living as if she had unlimited time. These contradictions existed not in conflict but in harmony, each balancing the other in ways Taho couldn't comprehend. The mentary saw the universe as ordered and consistent. To experience this cognitive dissonance as normal was breaking Taho's sense of self. "Your mind should collapse under these contradictions," his fading consciousness projected. The response came not in words but in feeling, a sense of stretching, of flexibility, of bending without breaking. The human mind didn't need consistency to function. It had evolved to thrive within contradiction. In the treatment room, Jiu suddenly gasped and spoke clearly. "He's losing himself. The structure is too rigid. It's breaking." The Earth doctor looked bewildered. "She's talking about the priest." Elder Soman nodded gravely. His mind wasn't prepared for this. "Our consciousness requires order and pattern. Hers," she gestured at the chaotic readings from Jiu's brain, "does not." Inside the mental connection, Taho felt himself dissolving. His carefully constructed identity, built on logical consistency and clear categories, couldn't maintain cohesion in this environment of contradictions and impossibilities. Parts of his consciousness were being absorbed into the chaotic flow of human thought. Just as all seemed lost, he encountered something unexpected. Jiu's conscious mind reaching for him. Not the subconscious currents that had pulled him under, but her deliberate, focused attention. "You're drowning in me," her consciousness seemed to say. "You need an anchor." She extended something toward him, a mental construct, a simple meditation chant from his own tradition. She had absorbed it from his memories, and now offered it back to him, a familiar pattern in the chaos. Taho clung to this pattern, using it to begin rebuilding his fragmented sense of self. The familiar rhythm of the ancient meditation gave him something to organize around, a seed crystal in a supersaturated solution. In the physical world, both beings began to chant in unison. Taho weakly, Jiu with growing strength. "What's happening?" Doa asked, watching the brain patterns begin to stabilize. Elder Soman listened to the chant and understood. "She's giving him a way back. She's rebuilding his mind using our own traditions." The human and mentary medical teams watched in amazement as both patients stabilized, their vital signs gradually returning to normal ranges. The connection remained, but its nature had changed. No longer a chaotic entanglement, but something more structured, more intentional. After 30 more minutes, Taho opened his eyes. They glowed with an intensity never before seen in a mentary priest. Moments later, Jiu also awoke, looking exhausted but alert. "Are you all right, Ambassador?" her security chief asked immediately. Jiyu nodded slowly, her eyes never leaving Taho's face. I'm fine. Better than fine. I've seen. She paused, searching for words. I've seen how another mind truly works. Taho spoke, his voice raspy from disuse. As have I, though the experience nearly destroyed me. You weren't prepared for chaos, Jiu said simply. And you weren't prepared for someone to witness yours, Taho replied. The room fell silent as human and alien regarded each other with new understanding. The diplomatic mission had taken an unexpected turn, revealing depths to both species that neither had anticipated. Elder Soman finally broke the silence. Both of you need rest and medical observation. We can discuss what happened after you've recovered. As the medical teams helped them to separate recovery rooms, Taho and Jiu shared one last glance, a look of profound connection that transcended their biological differences. They had seen into the depths of each other's minds and survived. Whatever came next would be built on an understanding deeper than any diplomatic protocol could provide. 3 days had passed since the initial connection, and neither the human nor Mentari medical teams had been able to fully separate Taho and Jiu. They lay in adjacent beds in a specially prepared room, their vital signs now stable but their minds still linked. The connection had evolved into something never before documented, a continuous mental bridge that neither could break. Doctors came and went. Diplomats from both sides held urgent meetings, but inside the shared mental space, Taho was finally beginning to understand. The revelation came not as a sudden insight, but as a slow dawning horror. Through Jiu's memories, both personal and cultural, he witnessed the evolutionary path that had shaped human consciousness. Countless generations of humans had faced predators, natural disasters, war, disease, and famine. Their minds had not developed in the peaceful, stable environment of Mentara Prime, but in a world of constant threat and change. Your planet tried to kill you. Taho's thoughts echoed in their shared consciousness, over and over again. Not just our planet, Jiu's thoughts replied. Each other. Images flowed between them. Ancient battlefields, modern wars, the constant human struggle for resources and power. Taho witnessed the darkest aspects of humanity. Their capacity for cruelty, their willingness to destroy, their endless conflicts. In the physical world, Taho's body shuddered. The monitoring equipment registered his distress. His stress hormones are spiking again, said Doa, who had barely left the room in 3 days. Should we administer another sedative? Elder Soman shook her head. No. I believe he's finally understanding something important. Let the process continue. Within the mental link, Taho's horror deepened as he grasped the fundamental difference between their species. The Mentari had evolved in harmony with their environment, developing telepathy as a means of cooperation and community. Their history contained disagreements but few conflicts, problems solved through shared understanding rather than force. Humans had no such luxury. Their consciousness had been forged in adversity, shaped by the need to survive threats from all sides. Their minds had developed not despite chaos, but because of it. They needed mental systems capable of processing contradiction, uncertainty, and rapid change. How do you bear it? Taho asked, his mental voice trembling. The constant fear, the awareness of your own mortality, the knowledge that your world could turn against you at any moment. Through their connection, he felt Jiu's response, not in words, but in emotions and memories. He experienced her childhood fear of the dark, transformed over years into appreciation for the night sky. He felt her grief at losing a parent, which somehow coexisted with joy at the life they had shared. He witnessed her terror during a natural disaster, alongside the profound connection she felt with strangers who helped each other survive. We don't bear it, her consciousness explained. We transform it. In that moment, Taho accessed not just Jiu's personal memories, but humanity's collective achievements. He witnessed humans creating art from suffering, finding meaning in tragedy, building communities after devastation. The same chaotic minds that could conceive of cruelty could also imagine utopia. The same brains that processed fear could also generate hope that defied all rational assessment of the situation. This made no sense to the Mentari priest. How could such contradictory capacities exist in the same minds? The cognitive dissonance should have driven humans to madness. Instead, it seemed to be the very foundation of their resilience. On the third day, Taiho experienced Ju's most private thoughts, her existential questions about the meaning of life, her doubts about her chosen path, her fear of a meaningless universe. These weren't passing concerns but constant companions, questions she carried while still functioning each day. "You live with this uncertainty always?" he asked, his mental voice filled with disbelief. "All humans do," she responded. "We ask questions with no answers and keep living anyway." This revelation broke something fundamental in Tahoe's understanding of sentient consciousness. The Mentari sought certainty, pattern, and meaning in all things. Their telepathic abilities had developed to share understanding, to create consensus. The idea of functioning, even thriving, while carrying unanswerable questions and irreconcilable contradictions seemed impossible. Yet humans did exactly that every day. In the medical room, both patients' vital signs began to change. Jiu's remained steady while Tahoe's fluctuated wildly. "Something's happening," said the human doctor, checking her readings. "His brain is rewiring itself, forming new connections at an unprecedented rate." Elder Soman leaned forward with concern. "His mind is restructuring to accommodate what he's learning. This is beyond anything in our records." Inside their shared consciousness, Tahoe felt himself changing. The rigid structures of his Mentari thinking, the clear categories, the logical progressions, the need for resolution, were being transformed. Not destroyed, but expanded, becoming more flexible, more able to hold contradiction. "I cannot be what I was before," he projected to Jiu, a mixture of fear and wonder in his thoughts. "None of us remain unchanged by true understanding," she responded. As if triggered by this acceptance, something shifted in their connection. The boundaries between their minds, which had dissolved 3 days ago, began to reform, not as rigid barriers, but as permeable membranes, allowing each to return to themselves while retaining awareness of the other. In the physical world, both Tahoe and Jiu opened their eyes simultaneously. The medical teams rushed forward, checking vital signs and pupil responses. "The connection is resolving itself," Elder Soman said with relief. "They're coming back." Tahoe sat up slowly, his eyes no longer the clear silver of a Mentari priest, but swirled with flecks of color, a physical manifestation of his transformed consciousness. He looked at Jiu, who was also sitting up with the help of her medical team. 3 days, the human security chief said, checking his watch. "You've been under for 3 days." Jiu nodded weakly. It felt like lifetimes. "Because it was," Tahoe said, his voice carrying new harmonics. "I lived your life and the lives of countless humans before you." The room fell silent as everyone recognized the profound change in the high priest. His movements were different, less flowing and more direct. His expressions, normally subtle by Mentari standards, were more pronounced, more human. "Are you well, High Priest?" Elder Soman asked cautiously. Tahoe considered the question for a long moment. "I am not as I was," he finally replied. "I have witnessed the unimaginable and survived. I have seen how a mind can exist in perpetual contradiction and uncertainty. I have felt the horror of endless questioning without answer." He turned to look directly at Jiu, a gesture unusual in Mentari culture where eye contact was typically brief. "And I have never felt more alive." Jiu returned his gaze with equal intensity. "We live with the horror of uncertainty every day," she said simply. "It's the price we pay for being human." "It is no longer just your burden," Tahoe replied. "What has been shared cannot be unknown." As the medical teams continued their examinations, the two beings who had shared consciousness looked at each other with perfect understanding. The diplomatic mission had achieved something far beyond its original goals, not just contact between different species, but a fundamental transformation in how they understood consciousness itself. For Tahoe, the horror of understanding humanity had forever changed him. And in that change lay possibilities neither species had imagined before. In the aftermath of an extraordinary encounter, Tahoe emerged changed, both physically and mentally. The intense connection with human consciousness had transformed him profoundly. While his body healed, his mind continued to process the overwhelming experience that had bridged two entirely different species. Jiu, who had shared the telepathic connection, discovered unexpected changes within herself. Her intuition had sharpened, and fragments of alien memories now danced at the edges of her consciousness. These were not temporary glimpses, but permanent markers of their extraordinary encounter. The diplomatic mission that had brought them together was paused, giving both humans and Mentari time to understand the unprecedented event. Tahoe, once a skeptical priest, became an unexpected advocate for human potential. He began explaining to his own people that what they had perceived as human terror was actually a remarkable evolutionary adaptation. Where the Mentari had previously considered themselves intellectually superior, they now saw humans differently. The chaotic human history, which they once viewed as a weakness, was now recognized as a source of remarkable cognitive resilience. Humans had survived and thrived through countless challenges, developing the unique mental flexibility that the Mentari had never fully appreciated. Tahoe's perspective had completely transformed. The nightmares that initially haunted him gradually gave way to a deeper understanding. What seemed like mental chaos was actually a sophisticated survival mechanism. Humans did not just endure uncertainty, they embraced it, turning potential threats into opportunities for growth and understanding. A new treaty emerged from this profound encounter. It was not just a diplomatic document, but a testament to mutual respect and newfound understanding. Tahoe became the critical bridge between two species, translating not just languages but entire philosophical perspectives. His role was unique. He could articulate the human experience to the Mentari in ways no one else could, helping them see beyond their previous narrow understanding. The priest who once feared human thoughts now found beauty in their complexity, recognizing that what appeared chaotic was actually an intricate system of adaptation and survival. The connection between Jiu and Tahoe had done more than bridge two species. It had fundamentally altered their understanding of consciousness, intelligence, and potential. What began as a potentially catastrophic encounter had transformed into a remarkable opportunity for mutual growth and understanding. As time passed, the initial fear and misunderstanding gave way to curiosity and respect. Humans and Mentari began to see each other not as alien or threatening, but as different expressions of intelligent life, each with their own strengths and unique perspectives. Tahoe's journey from a cautious priest to a diplomatic bridge was symbolic of the larger transformation happening between two species. His personal growth mirrored the collective evolution of understanding, proving that true communication goes far beyond words or even telepathic connections. It requires empathy, openness, and a willingness to see beyond one's own limited perspective. In the end, what had seemed like a moment of potential destruction became a turning point in interspecies relations. The chaos of human thought, once feared, was now celebrated as a testament to the remarkable adaptability of intelligent life.